All right, guys, let's get into this story. This is a really crazy story, and I can't even believe the outcome. All right, welcome back to another one. Oh my gosh. It's the day after Thanksgiving and it's 5:30 in the morning. But this is really the only time I get to film, so here I am. And it is Black Friday, so I think the whole world is up right now. Anyways, we have a couple cases to go over today. But this one specifically caught my attention, and I wanted to cover it first because it has a couple more elements to it. At first it seems very like black and white, like why is this guy even on trial? And then when I heard some of the details of it, I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. So we're going to get into this video and then we'll talk after.
It's tipping the scales in the newest trial we are tracking here at Court TV. The Jealous Ex Shot Dead trial is underway in Massachusetts. Defendant Brian Camp is charged with manslaughter for the death of Jonathan Latender. This was his girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, and prosecutors say Latender broke into that home that Camp shared with his girlfriend and their 2 kids and began attacking Camp in his sleep. Camp claims that he shot in self-defense. The first shot, the state agrees with him, says he was a victim and he was lawful in that shot. But it's the second shot to Latender's head, approximately 8.5 minutes after the first shot, that shows Camp, according to the state, used excessive and unnecessary force. Here's more on the story from Court TV's crime and justice correspondent, Matt Johnson.
24-year-old Brian Camp is charged with manslaughter in the death of Jonathan Latender.
He was 27 years old. He was the general manager for Dunkin' Donuts. And it was through his work at Dunkin' Donuts that he met a young woman named Brooke Janik. During a break in Brooke's relationship with Mr. Camp in early 2022, when they had split up, Mr. Latender and Ms. Janik struck up a relationship.
Their relationship was brief. When she went back to camp, Latender did not take it well. And on December 27, 2022, Camp, Brooke, and their 2 children were sleeping at a home when Latender broke in shortly after midnight. Brooke heard someone coming up the stairs and screamed.
And then before I even could see, because I just woke up, before I could even see, there was some guy standing in the doorway. Before you know it, the kid's like on top of me. Mind you, I had no clothes on. I'm trying to wrestle this kid. I know he was like trying to dig my eyes out, telling me he was gonna kill me.
Investigators say that there was a brutal fight. Brooke called 911, and on the audio of that call, a gunshot is heard. Then about 8.5 minutes later, she reacts to a second gunshot.
Okay, you heard another gunshot?
Latender was shot in the torso and in the back of the head. Prosecutors say the first shot to the torso was lawful and in self-defense. They claim the second shot was not, but the defense alleges Latender was still able to move and still a threat.
Mr. Latender was able to move, was moving, and that Mr. Camp, after all of this, believed that he needed to shoot again because he needed to stop this thing because it clearly was not stopping.
Camp pleaded not guilty.
Yeah, and I shot him because the entire time he'd been telling me he's gonna kill me.
This is a unique trial, a unique case. Some are saying it shouldn't even be going to trial in the way that this incident went down. We're asking, do the state laws there in Massachusetts having to do with stand your ground, self-defense, the Castle Doctrine, do they tip the scales of justice? And we have a great panel to discuss this from two states that sometimes are on opposite ends of the spectrum. We have in Massachusetts, attorney and former homicide prosecutor Richard Grundy, and in Florida, we have civil rights attorney John Phillips with us. Richard, let me get your take on all things Massachusetts there and what you think about this case where the prosecution says, yes, self-defense for the first shot, but the second shot, manslaughter.
So that does, from what I've heard and listening to the open statement, lines up with the current law in Massachusetts, which does recognize the Castle Doctrine, that being Massachusetts has a duty to retreat, but that duty to retreat is negated if you are lawfully within your abode, apartment, house, whatever, protecting yourself or the others. So that aspect of it fits in with this prosecution only because the duty is that you're excused to use in these circumstances is only so much as to negate, quell the threat that is against you. And as we heard in the opening statements, this case is really about those 8 minutes after the first shot and prior to that second one, which, you know, has been put forth by the prosecution as basically a kill shot of a person who was potentially mortally injured at that point in time. I was interested in listening to the openings that we didn't hear any discussion with respect to medical testimony as to exactly what life may or was not in the victim at the time the second shot was issued to his head. But it is there. I think it would be a difficult case in light of those 8 minutes and a shot to the head for the prosecution not to prosecute. They went with manslaughter, which is really a negligence standard, which is somewhat of an odd fit. But I think that what's notable is it takes it out of any kind of minimum mandatory sentencing. He is actually trying this to a jury and to a judge if he's found guilty, who will do that sentencing and could put him on probation.
You're raising a great point, Richard, about the deadliness of the second shot versus the first. We're going to talk about that more in a minute, and we are going to be seeing those opening statements in our next hour. But first, I want to get Attorney John Phillips's legal analysis of this case. And John, you know, because I was a reporter in the area where you are, I know many of your cases personally, having covered them, and you represented the victim's family of a case where the defendant claimed stand your ground, which in Florida always gets headlines. Talk about your take on this particular case where this was an ex who broke into their home while they were sleeping.
And you're right. And in that case, it took 2 trials to fully convict Michael Dunn of the murder of Jordan Davis. The first case was about an attempted murder. And what you're going to hear here throughout the defense case is need versus want. He needed to shoot him the first time, but he wanted to shoot him the second time, right? And that's where the medical testimony is really key to see how much damage the first shot did. But let's boil back to old common law England that we brought with us with the Castle Doctrine and self-defense. And a man or woman is at home in their castle and safe. There's no duty to retreat. You don't need to have someone flip from being an aggressor to a non-aggressor. I do think that's why they charge the lower level, but I think this is a state's case.
And Richard, I do think that from the openings we did learn that the prosecution says he was incapacitated with that first shot, that he was in the kitchen, and you have a defendant who took a phone call from his boss during that 8-minute period between the 2 shots, that he took a picture of the shooting victim in his home. I don't know how that will sit with a jury, perhaps just to show this happened, but they're going to say that he wasn't moving. Is it a problem, and perhaps it's a societal issue that the prosecution wants to make sure we don't condone, that you can't treat him like an animal, that if he's in pain, if he is not moving, or he's seemingly had a really terrible situation from the first shot, that we don't just put you down, which the prosecution says they heard the defendant say that. The officers are going to say they heard him say, if it were me, I would want someone to put me down.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Julia, and I think that's why I said I think that it's a tough case for the prosecution not to address, and they've left the door open for someone other than themselves to decide ultimately how it's addressed upon a conviction, that being the judge, and that being the judge having a range of from probation to 20 years incarcerated. I will say that I know Steve Gagne. I've worked a little with him over the years. I thought he did a very good job in the opening and really bifurcated these issues between the initial clearly self-defense of an individual being attacked and that second shot. I found it interesting that neither party got into this telephone call with the boss and any further with respect to the picture, because between what the medical examiner will say about the first shot and what that boss discussed with this individual, I think that will give us be a good barometer as to where on this. And I'm just kind of surprised we didn't hear more of the in the openings.
Right, we should hear more soon. Real quick before we have to go to break, John Phillips, how do you think a jury is going to react to Jeremy Camp?
Oh, it's going to be a tough case. I'd rather have the civil case, I'll say that. But you know, I think the jury will convict.
And Brian Camp, I meant to say Brian Camp. John Phillips and Richard Grundy, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.
Okay, so immediately, just seeing what I saw there, I did watch that, or I listened to that while I was taking notes about this case earlier. An unwanted person, if an unwanted person were to come into my home, I would protect myself and my entire family. I mean, I am surprised that this went to trial. Now, there are some gray areas in which that's why the state was able to prosecute him. This noise is going to keep going on and off because my husband doesn't like to charge our headphones. And then I have to hear this going on and off. So, anyways, they're sleeping. Brian and Brooke are a couple. They have kids together. There was apparently a small moment in time where they separated. I don't know if they're not married, I don't believe. A brief time where they were separated. Brooke was working at Dunkin' Donuts, and the victim here, Jonathan, he's the one who broke into the home and got killed. Him and Brooke kind of had, I guess, a situationship, if you'd like to say. And she ended up going back to Brian, the father of her kids. And this guy was not happy about it. So he broke into their home at night and got shot. Now, with self-defense, which to me, if you're in my home, if I shoot you 20 times, you're in my home, unwanted. You're an intruder. But apparently there's like 8 minutes. The first shot went in the abdomen. They say medical examiners testify that that would have killed him. Now, Brian claims that he was not dead and he was still posing a threat, and he shot him in the head 8 minutes later. But in between that time, apparently he takes pictures of Jonathan, calls his boss, and I believe there's more. I'm not sure. I had only seen that one video. We're gonna run through this video and see what else there is to this case. This already went to trial. He was already found not guilty. In fact, the verdict came in 3 days ago. So if the verdict hadn't come in, I wouldn't. Obviously, we would just wait for the verdict. But I wanted to just put it out there because I like to spoil things.
Massachusetts is where this case is taking place. The Jealous Ex shot dead trial for Brian Camp. He is accused of killing a man who broke into his home at night. He shot him twice. The first shot, the prosecution says, was fair game, but the second shot 8.5 minutes later was not. We're listening now to the 911 call that both the prosecution and defense say proves their case in the case.
All right, so we're going to listen to the 911 call in this. Okay.
The case against Brian Camp.
I can't make out to anything that's being said. I don't understand what she's saying. It literally just sounds like. All right, so I didn't realize that I still had this paused and I was just playing it the whole time. Here is the partial body cam. This is after, but I'm trying to find also like when the cops arrived and did the walkthrough. But we're going to go ahead and listen to this, and this one is 20 minutes long.
Yeah, from the hospital.
There's a copy of that. I got the same form I'm just going to read to you. It says, before we ask you any questions, you must understand your rights. You have the right to remain silent. You understand that?
Yep.
Anything you say can and will be used against you in court. You understand that?
Yep.
You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before we ask you any questions, and to have him or her with you during questioning. You understand that?
Yep.
If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you. You understand that?
Yep.
If you decide to answer questions now, you still have the right to stop questioning at any time. You understand that?
Yep.
All right. Do you understand overall what I just read to you?
Yes.
All right. And having these rights in mind, you wish to talk to me now?
Yeah.
You want to just, oh, let's use that one because you read that one. If you want to check yes or no, if you say yes, yes, and then you can sign it. I will sign it.
That's the hardest thing is trying
Oh,
to get it.
sure.
What's the date?
No, currently it is the 27th of December.
You were right, Brian? Yep. Yeah. Oh.
Unleash your creativity with Creative Fabrica, your go-to place for all of your print-on-demand needs.
Current time, 6:07 in the morning.
Oh, sheesh.
Yeah, it's long right now. All right, so I guess we'll start with just kind of tell me what happened tonight.
She woke me up. She said that she thought she heard somebody.
Who's she?
Her Brooke.
Okay, and that is your
Girlfriend.
girlfriend, and you guys live together at the house
Yep.
in
Chesterfield.
Chesterfield. What's the address there?
239 South Street.
Okay.
I want to say.
All right.
She woke me up, said she heard something, which isn't unusual. I told her, no, there's nothing, you know. I didn't get out of bed or anything. And then I guess she heard it again, or just had a feeling, and she got up, and like her head didn't even go around the corner, and she screamed and came back in. And then before I like even could see, because I just woke up, before I could even see, there was some guy standing in the doorway.
Okay.
And then.
And this is the doorway of your bedroom?
Yes.
Okay, and this is the bedroom on the top floor?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a two-story house?
Yes.
All right, I just saw it from the outside briefly while I was up there, but,
Right.
so your bedroom upstairs?
Right.
And he was upstairs?
Right.
Okay.
And I don't even know how it started, but before you know it, the kid's like on top of me. Mind you, I had no clothes on. I'm trying to wrestle this kid.
Completely naked?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. And I don't know, he was like trying to dig my eyes out and shit, telling me he was gonna kill me and all this stuff. And I don't know, he started bleeding up there. Something broke. I heard something smash. And then now all of a sudden he's bleeding like crazy.
Okay.
And the room is like, there's a little like, part of the room that goes off to the side. It's not a perfect corner, or a perfect square or a rectangle.
Yep.
And ended up over there. I had him in a chokehold, and he was still trying to dig my eyes out.
Okay. Now, when you say you had him in a chokehold, describe how that was. Were you both on the floor? Were you standing?
Both on the floor, and I had him like around the neck,
Okay.
like that, and like
And was he on the bottom and you were on the top?
kind of more like side to side.
Okay.
And then I thought like after somebody choked me out like that, I would, you know, you got me, right? And so I ran downstairs, mind you, still ass naked. I hear this dude coming down the stairs, and
When you choked him, was he unconscious?
no,
Okay.
he wasn't unconscious, no. And because I let go of him before he dug my eyes out, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And went downstairs, and I don't know, it's hard to put like things in a chronological order, like 1, 2, 3.
Mm.
I don't know. All I can remember is somehow he got a hold of my muzzle loader, which was like leaned up in the corner, because I've been hunting every day, right? And
And where was the muzzle loader? Up in the corner where?
like by the bottom of the stairs, there's I don't know what to call it. It's like it's like a low shelf, but it opens up.
Okay, yeah.
And the muzzle loader was over there. And then we were wrestling for that, and luckily I opened the thing and dumped the primer out of it.
So I had a primer in there?
Yeah.
Okay. Pellets and the round were all in there?
I would assume, yeah. I mean, I was ready to go hunting. I did go hunting with it yesterday.
Okay.
And I dumped the primer out of it, at least I think. And then he tried to shoot me with that thing. And I went.
What do you describe that to me? Just because I was
like,
there.
we're like, I don't know.
So he grabs the muzzle loader, and then you grab the
And
muzzle
then
loader?
I grabbed it, and I don't know, somehow either my arms were around his or his arms were around me or something. Because he was trying to figure out, you know what I mean? Like he was pulling the trigger and nothing was happening, so he was trying to figure out how to cock it or whatever. And that's when I dumped the primer out of it. And then I grabbed this old decrepit shotgun that was like together but not together.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
No.
And
I don't. Explain.
so like this chair might look like it's there and
Yeah.
all put together, but you touch it
Okay.
and the arm falls off, this falls off, so like it would not have functioned.
Okay.
But I just grabbed it as like if someone's pointing a shotgun at me, I would get out of the house, you know what I mean? And then he tried to grab that from me, so I ripped it back and the barrel came off of it.
Okay.
And then so I had the stock and he had the barrel, and I think that's what he hit me in the head with, was the barrel.
Okay.
And
So if you got hit in the head at some point, you think it was that barrel?
yeah, and then he cornered me in the kitchen, and I don't know fucking how, but I remembered that my handgun was way on top of the counter,
Okay.
and I grabbed it, and I
What are you saying, way on top of the counter,
like
on the shelf?
the top cabinet.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
way on top, like you gotta climb on the counter to get up to the
Because
cabinet.
they're not connected, so.
Right. Yeah, and I shot him. Because the entire time, he'd been telling me he's gonna kill me, and that's about it.
Okay. When you shot him, you guys were in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Was he, explain that just in a little more detail. So were you guys still in contact with each other?
No, I was all the way up against the sink, and then he was probably like from me to you.
Okay.
Or something like that.
So give it, what is this, 6 feet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 5, 6, yeah. No more than 10, I would say.
Okay. And what was he doing at that time?
Coming at me
Okay.
with a shotgun barrel.
Okay.
And I was not going to get hit in the head with a shotgun barrel again
No.
inside my own house. You know, I tried to scare him with the muzzle loader.
Mhm.
Didn't work. Tried to wrestle me for it.
Mm-hmm.
Was scared for my life then. Wrestled him over the shotgun. And then, sorry. I hope if I ever did that, somebody would put me down. That's all I hope. You know what I mean?
Now, so you remember that your gun's on top of the cabinet, so you reach up there, get a hold of it. Was it in a holster or anything up there?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
And so you took it out of the holster. What kind of handgun was it?
It's a 6-hour P365.
Okay, yep. I know what those are. 9mm?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I actually bought it for her to shoot.
And he's now, between 5 to 10 feet away from you, coming at you with a shotgun barrel. How many times do you shoot?
Once, twice, I don't know. Maybe twice.
Okay.
I don't know.
What happened then?
He hit the ground.
Okay. Then what did you do?
I went outside to find out where she was because she got out of that house and I guess was calling.
That's probably the only part that seems bad, and probably why the state was like, yeah, we're going to prosecute him. You can tell he knew that he shot him more than once. I'll lay it out. I believe he had I think I said it earlier, every right to shoot him. But right there, I would have been like, listen, he's in my house. I shot him multiple times. He was still coming at me and posing a threat. That's him being like, I think I shot him twice. You shot him more than once. I'd have been like, he's in my house, unwanted. I shot him more than once.
You guys or somebody. And then I went out. Still naked. Went out. Checked on her. Got her shoes.
Also, what things that irritate me the most during like first this isn't really an interrogation, this is more of an interview, is like when people add like unwanted, like, okay, we knew you were naked from the get-go. You don't have to keep telling us the whole time. Did my husband put that weird thing on my eyes? I'll be able to tell when I edit. I hope he didn't.
Then went upstairs and got dressed.
Where were the kids during this?
Across the hall. I mean, the hallway is less distance than this table, me to you, from our door to their door.
Okay. When your girl went outside, she get the kids, or were they still in the house?
No, they were still in the house.
And then, so you ran outside, checked on her. Do you remember what she said to her?
No, she was just talking to somebody on like the dispatch. I don't really remember who or what, or I don't remember what I said.
And then you went back into the house.
Yeah, I got dressed.
Okay. Was there any more shots fired when you went back into the house?
No.
Did you check on the individual?
No, I left in there.
Okay. And then you get dressed, then what happens?
And then went back outside, and then momentarily somebody pulled in.
Okay. What did you do with the handgun?
I had it in my pocket, and then I was gonna put it down. We were asking dispatch, I was like, do you want me to put it on the ground and leave it somewhere? And then right as we were in and on, that's when somebody pulled in, and I just put my hands up.
So a trooper arrived?
Yep. Yep. Two cars. I think three people, 2 cars.
Okay.
Maybe 3 cars. I don't know.
Yeah,
it was definitely 3.
There's some new guys that were just doing training and stuff. So. Okay. So you said you think it was 1 shot, maybe 2 shots?
Yeah. Like I said. Maybe 2. I don't know, I have this reoccurring fucking nightmare about something like this happening and my gun not going off. And like...
And so he's 10 feet away, 5 to 10 feet, I think you said, closing distance. When you actually let the round go, do you know what the distance was between the 2 of you?
No. Yeah, like I said, I could guess, but like 5 to 10 feet, I would really just be taking a shot in the dark in between 5 to 10 feet.
You don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Alright. Okay. Do you remember like aiming the gun or?
No, just pop. You know, no, I didn't have time to aim it, you know what I mean? He tried to wrestle me for that thing.
For what thing?
The handgun.
Okay. You made contact at some point? So after you get the gun, you guys came into contact with each other?
He tried to grab it and I like ripped my hand away, and that's when I walked back towards the sink. And then once I like felt my back bump up against the sink, you know?
Yeah, don't know what's wrong.
Yeah, exactly. What am I gonna do? Jump out of the window while my kids are in there?
Okay. Did you know this individual? Did you recognize him?
I did not know him one bit, no.
Okay. You say that like there's a qualifying thing there. Did she know him?
I guess she knew his name.
How did you learn that?
Because somebody asked, what's the person's name? And she said, Jonathan. So other than that, that's all I know.
Okay. But do you know a Jonathan? Did she tell you anything about him?
I have a cousin, Jonathan, who lives in Texas.
Okay. So you don't know this particular Jonathan?
No.
As far as you know?
Nope, I do not.
Did you ever talk about a Jonathan in the past?
Not that I know of, no. No. Nope. Yeah, no. Yeah. I don't know. Her ex-boyfriend years and years ago, his name was Jacob. The older one's dad's name is Jason.
This is kind of where I feel like there's some dishonesty. You telling me they split up and they never talked about, oh, did you hook up with anybody? Blah, 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 blah. He knew who he was. I guarantee you he knew who he was. Or at least knew his name or knew of him. Maybe you never met him before, but I guarantee you he knew of him, which still doesn't change my opinion on the matter of him, killing him. He's unwanted in the home. Do I think that there was a lot of that? That's very black and white. We're getting into the gray areas that's making me go, okay, now I'm starting to kind of understand why there was why the state was going for manslaughter.
I don't know, I just don't know, man.
That shotgun, you don't know if was it functional at all? Whose shotgun is that? Let's pick that.
I have no clue. I would assume it's either, I don't know. I really honestly don't know whose it is. It was just...
The Jack House.
Yeah, and it was like, you know those guns you wouldn't risk your life to shoot the thing? It was one of those guns. Like,
It's not put back here.
yeah. I'm glad I didn't get bored one day and try to shoot that thing. If the barrel came off it with a yank, it probably would explode in my face. Yeah.
Your muzzle order, Thompson, CBA?
CBA.
Okay. So break open?
Yep.
Hand fire?
Yep.
Inline muzzle order?
Yep.
Color?
Black.
Okay.
Black grip, silver barrel.
Okay. CBA both? One of
Yep.
those? Okay.
Yep. Same one.
And then that was loaded as far as you, just from hunting, then you got a primer in it.
Mm-hmm.
You struggled with it, broke it open. You're assuming the primer fell out, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. The SIG registered to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Shotgun, you don't know?
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have any other firearms in the house that are registered to you?
I had a Smith & Wesson revolver.
Okay.
And I think my 22 was there for the raccoons.
Okay.
But other than that,
You had a 22 rifle or a little revolver?
yeah, little rifle. Looked just like the muzzle loader with a little scope on it and everything. There might have been a shotgun locked in a case from shotgun season, but I honestly wouldn't even know what the hell that is. Like I said, I think it's in the case.
Just because I'm trying to paint a picture for myself here. You said, I think, correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth, that she tried to wake you up, saying she heard something, your girlfriend?
Oh, she definitely did wake me up.
Are you guys married?
No.
Okay, so girlfriend?
Yeah.
She woke you up, said she heard something, you didn't quite believe it.
Yeah. And then like 5 seconds later, she got up and peeked around the corner. Because our bed's here, the wall for the stairway is here. And so she got up, peeked 180 around the corner, and then screamed and hopped back in.
Okay. When you first encountered the male, did he have anything that you saw? Like bat, pipe, anything?
No, I didn't see anything. It was dark.
Okay. And so you get up and you immediately are in contact with him. And
Right, like before I could even get like up out of bed, really, yeah.
Okay. And so he was bleeding badly when you were. So you got to fight. You got to start trying to choke him out.
Yeah, and then somehow, like I said, I heard something smash. I would assume it was the smash.
Okay.
Right, I heard glass smash, and then all of a sudden there's blood everywhere.
You know where he's bleeding from?
His head. Because I remember when I had him in a chokehold, he had a pretty good split in his head.
Do you know what that could have been?
Like I said, the smash.
You know what the smash is?
I don't know. It must have been something glass. I don't know, a beer bottle or something. But we don't drink beer. I don't know what the hell it was.
Did you?
Like a light bulb or something. I don't fucking know.
Your hands broken. Were you throwing punches the entire time?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. Was he throwing punches?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. And you think you got off a shot, maybe two, and you're sure that when you went back into the house, no more gunfire. You didn't shoot again?
No.
There was no more physical altercation. You can get back up and another physical altercation took place, something like that?
No.
Okay. Do you know where you hit him?
No. Like I said, I didn't even have time to really like aim it. I would assume.
Somewhere.
Yeah, no.
Did you go back in and check on him? I may have already asked questions, but.
No, I didn't go in and I didn't like go like check on him, but like I walked like when I walked in to get my clothes back on, I walked in and like looked to make sure he didn't get up, you know.
So he went and looked at him. He stated like 10 minutes ago that he walked out of the house. But this was just the first shot, I believe, which was in the torso. And now he's saying he peeked. Okay. Then did he walk up to him and shoot him in the head? I don't know.
Anything else at the moment?
Could you just describe to me the upstairs room? So you guys have your bedroom that you sleep in. Where are the kids located?
So if this is the square of the house, right here where all these numbers are is the stairway going in. Then straight on would be the bathroom, and then to the left, right at the top of the stairs, is our room, and to the right would be the kids' room. And then both rooms are, like I said, they're not perfectly squared off, so when you walk in, the front side of the house that's closer to the road has obviously some of the space is used for the bathroom, so it's kind of like a little
kick out type thing?
Yeah, that's where the closet's built out of.
All right, so that is the end of that one. All right, we're gonna watch him on Cross. This was last week, I believe. Whenever a defendant's taking the stand, I am going to watch Cross, no matter how I feel about it. So I guarantee you, we will find out here the main gray areas of why the state pressed manslaughter charges, and we will see it all. Wow, he looks so different.
The individual who broke into your home that night, you had never seen him before?
That is correct.
So you didn't recognize him?
No.
You didn't know his name?
No.
You later learned who he was, though, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And had you been told previously by Ms. Janik that she had had a relationship with Mr. Latender?
No.
She never told you that?
No.
She never told you that she'd had a fling with her boss during your breakup earlier in 2022?
No.
So let me start off with the point where you say you heard something smash, some type of glass breaking up in the bedroom. You know which point I'm talking about?
Yes.
And during your interview with the police, you said it sounded like a beer bottle, but you guys don't drink beer, so that didn't make sense, correct?
I said I assumed it was a beer bottle because of the smash.
But then you pretty much quickly said, no, that doesn't make sense because we don't drink beer.
Correct.
Then you said, well, maybe it was maybe it was a light bulb.
Yes.
Okay, but at the time you were interviewed by the police, you really weren't sure what had smashed?
Correct, I was unsure.
Now, you later learned that that was actually Brooke Janik, your girlfriend, smashing him over the head with a glass bong, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's what...
Okay, so we now know the smash came from the girlfriend smashed a glass bong over Jonathan's head. Damn. Told you, everything will come out, cross-examination.
Seemingly started Mr. Latender bleeding quite profusely, correct?
Yes.
Bleeding from his head.
Yes.
Now, you testified that you were able to sort of get some type of chokehold onto Mr. Latender, am I right?
Yes.
And at some point you were able to actually sort of break free from him and escape the bedroom, am I right?
Yes.
Now, when you ran out of the bedroom, if you kept going straight across the hallway, that would have been into the girls' room, all right? Am I right?
Yes.
Instead, you took a right, went down the stairs.
Yes.
And when you got to the bottom of the stairs, Mr. Latender was still upstairs.
No.
Well, who got downstairs first?
Me.
So Mr. Latender was behind you?
Correct.
Okay, so when you left the bedroom, he was still in the bedroom.
Yes.
And when you started going down the stairs, he was still in the bedroom.
When I started going down the stairs, he was up, trailing me out of the bedroom, trailing me going down the stairs.
Okay. And so he was closer to your girls than you were?
For a brief period.
So when you get to the bottom of the stairs, you went for a muzzle loader that was laying on top of your toolbox, am I right?
Yes.
And you actually had to, during the struggle, break it open and dump out the primer so it wouldn't fire, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so prior to that, it was capable of being fired.
Yes.
And you'd left it on top of the toolbox?
Yes.
So it hadn't been secured, wasn't locked up?
Sustained.
All right, so,
Move to strike. That will be stricken.
all right, so just so we're clear, though, on top of the toolbox, there was your loaded muzzle loader weapon.
Objection. I'll let you have that.
Am I right?
Yes.
After you'd snapped it open and dumped out the primer, you then reached for a shotgun?
After some time.
Mhm.
Yes.
And that was in a closet?
Yes.
Okay. And you knew it was there?
I didn't know.
Well, if you didn't know it was there, why did you open the closet?
There was multiple guns in the closet.
Okay. Loaded?
Unclear.
What do you mean?
I did not know.
So you knew there were multiple, when you say multiple weapons in the closet, tell us about that.
Multiple means more than one.
Well, yes, but can you expand on that?
There was.
He got the attitude. I will say, I do like the short and sweet, right to the point answers. But I think you should tone it down just a little bit. Even let me just shut up.
There was multiple guns in the closet. It's just that simple. There was multiple guns in the closet.
Are we talking 2, 3, 5, 10?
I'm unclear.
What kind?
All long guns. That is all I know.
I think that he's, because they have children, I think that he's trying to, you know, you have kids and you have all these guns ready to go all around the house. So, and they're doing that to show character, to show, negligence.
You lived pretty much mostly full time in this house, correct?
Yes.
Were these your weapons?
Some of them.
And you can't tell us sitting here today how many were in there, even though you owned them and you lived there?
Yes.
Yes, you can, or yes, you can't?
I cannot.
So the shotgun that you actually grabbed, was that yours?
No.
And you said that it was kind of a rickety, barely held together shotgun?
Yes.
Did you know that when you grabbed it?
No.
You quickly discovered, though, that it wasn't in good shape.
Yes.
It ended up breaking apart during your struggle with Mr. Latender.
Yes.
So we've talked about the muzzle loader, we've talked about the shotgun. Let's talk about the revolver. You also had a revolver in the house, correct?
Correct.
Objection. No, I mean, you can have that question.
So you did have a revolver in the house?
Yes.
And that was yours?
Yes.
And it was loaded?
Yes.
And it was on the kitchen countertop?
Yes.
And you'd left it there,
Yes.
along with your keys.
Yes.
During your interview with the police, you talked about how when you come into the house, you tend to just sort of empty your pockets and dump everything out, correct?
Yes.
And is that the place where you would typically just dump things out,
Yes.
including your keys and a revolver?
Yes.
And the Sig Sauer?
Would not be carrying 2 weapons at the same time.
So after you'd struggled with Mr. Latender over the muzzle loader and over the shotgun, you testified that the struggle sort of gravitated over toward the kitchen area, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you got to the kitchen area, your loaded revolver was on the countertop, am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you'd left it there when?
I'm unsure of that.
Was it the last time you'd come in the house?
No.
Was it there for some time?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 23. Can you see that photo, sir?
Yes.
This is your kitchen area, am I right?
Yes.
And the countertop we're talking about, zooming in, it's over on the right-hand side, correct?
Yes.
And closer up view, exhibit number 25. This is the shotgun that you grabbed out of the closet, am I right?
Yes.
And the revolver is right here where my cursor is.
Yes.
So when you ended up in that area of the kitchen battling Mr. Latender, that revolver was right there on the countertop within arm's reach of you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But during your interview with the police, you said that you actually went for the Sig Sauer, which was somewhere else, am I right?
Yes.
You said that it was up above, not in the cabinets, but you said it was up above the cabinets?
Yes.
So showing you exhibit number 23. Keep doing that, excuse me. Exhibit number 23. You've got these suspended or elevated cabinets, correct?
Yes.
And you testified, excuse me, I believe you told the police during your interview that in order to reach up there to get the firearm, you actually had to climb up onto the countertop to reach, am I right?
No, I was referring to something else.
Well, when they asked you where the Sig Sauer came from, you said that it was up above the kitchen cabinets, and to get above the kitchen cabinets, you've got to climb up on the countertop, am I right?
If you needed both your hands to carry the object and hold the object, you would need to climb onto the counter, but you can reach the top of the counter standing. I can reach the top of the counter
Okay.
standing,
So
top
that-
of the cabinet.
That's your memory of what you told the police.
Yes.
And you knew heading into that kitchen area which cabinet top your Sig Sauer was stashed on top of?
Yes.
And how did you know that?
Because that was a common place for it to be.
So who would commonly put your Sig Sauer on top of the kitchen cabinets?
Objection.
All right, you can rephrase your question.
Thank you. How did you know where your Sig Sauer was in the kitchen?
It was a common place for it to be.
Okay. Had you put it there last?
I do not know.
Which countertop or which cabinet was it stashed above? Can you point it out for us, please?
Not the first cabinet door or the second, but in line with above the third
cabinet door.
So you're talking like over here on the right, sort of above where the Tostitos are?
roughly.
So your testimony is that when you were cornered in the kitchen, you reached up above this countertop here, right abouts in the area where this crock pot is and this smiley Halloweeny type thing?
Yes.
You're saying that was a common place to stash your Sig Sauer?
Yes.
And you were able to reach all the way up there from the floor, is your testimony?
It's asked and answered, Judge. Objection.
I'll let you have it.
That's your testimony, sir?
Yes.
And you don't recall telling the police you had to climb up onto the countertop to reach there?
How tall is he? Let's see how tall he is. There's too many brain camps. I'm sure I'll bring it up.
I do recall saying that.
So once you get the Sig Sauer down from on top of the cabinets, it's already loaded?
Yes.
It's got 10 rounds in the magazine?
Unsure.
Well, fully loaded?
Unsure.
With hollow tipped rounds?
Yes.
You had loaded those into the weapon, correct?
Yes.
You shoot Mr. Latender in his torso, correct?
Yes.
So you're holding the gun, am I right? Were you holding it with your right hand?
No.
So you're holding it with your left hand?
Correct.
Are you left-handed?
No.
Which hand did you use to fire it?
My left.
So you shot with your left hand?
Yes.
Even though you're right-handed?
Yes.
Why is that?
I grabbed it with my left hand.
Okay. So you reach up, so you're facing Mr. Latender, you reach up, you grab it off the top of the counter, the cabinet, with your left hand?
Yes.
You bring it down with your left hand?
Yes.
And how do you point it? How do you shoot?
I removed the holster with my right hand and pointed it at him and shot him.
So you had the time to take the firearm out of the holster, but you didn't then transfer it to your dominant hand?
I had the holster in my other hand.
And you shot him with your left hand?
Yes.
And where was he, how was he oriented to you?
He was facing me.
Facing you, okay. So he's facing you and you shoot him with your left hand?
Yes.
You say he fell to the ground on his back, am I right?
Yes.
And he didn't bounce back up, am I right?
Yes.
I'm right, he did not bounce up?
Yes.
Okay. Was he moaning at that point?
Yes.
Was he moving in any way?
Yes.
How so?
He was moving his arms, his legs, his entire body. He was changing position from his back to one side to the other, onto his stomach, all in a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm. But he never regained his feet?
At that moment.
Fair to say he was squirming on the ground?
Yes.
Squirming and moaning?
Yes.
And bleeding?
I don't know.
You didn't see any blood coming out of him at that point?
No.
And your testimony is that at that point he looked at you and said, did he say that he would need a lawyer or you would need a lawyer?
He said the words, "I need an attorney."
Meaning he needed an attorney.
Him.
But then he said, I'm going to kill you, meaning you.
Yes.
So at that point, with him squirming and moaning on the ground, you left the kitchen.
Yes.
And when you left the kitchen, you walked away from him, turning your back to him, am I right?
No.
No, well, you backed out of the kitchen?
I maintained looking at him as I got out of the kitchen.
And which way did you get out of the kitchen?
I stepped sideways along the counter.
Mm-hmm. This countertop here?
Yes.
So you're saying you basically backed away from him by walking in this photo from toward the right?
Yes.
Through the little alcove underneath the stairs?
Yes.
And at that point, you went outside to check on Brooke?
Yes.
So is it fair to say that when you left him in the kitchen, moaning and squirming on the ground with a gunshot wound, you felt as though you had neutralized the threat at that point?
Yes.
So much so that you left the house with the girl still upstairs. That is what you did, correct?
Yes.
And when you left,
I have a problem with that. A big problem with that. Where was Brooke during this time? I have questions.
Mr. Latender, whose name you didn't know at the point, right? You didn't know who it was.
I did not.
When you left him in the kitchen, you left the shotgun barrel that he had been holding at some point right on the floor next to him, am I right?
Yes.
Showing you here in exhibit number 23, you'd agree with me that it's lying in this photo to the right of his body, correct?
Yes.
And he had used that during your struggle with him sort of as a weapon or a club?
Yes.
Struck you with it?
Yes.
And you left it right near his squirming, moaning body?
Yes.
You also left your loaded revolver on the countertop right next to Mr. Latender?
Yes.
And you left him in the kitchen alone?
Yes.
After you go outside to check on Brooke, you then go back into the house, am I right?
Yes.
Where's the 6 hour at this point?
I have the 6 hour.
Okay. You never put it down on the rail, did you?
I don't believe so.
So you lied to the police about that?
It was unclear at the time.
Well, did you say I'm unclear, or did you say, yeah, I put it on the rail and I believe it left it there the whole time?
That was my memory at the time.
You go upstairs, you poke your head into the room where the girls are, correct?
Yes.
You put some pants on at that point.
Yes.
You then bring some items outside to Brooke, am I right?
Yes.
What did you bring her?
Shoes.
Okay. And again, you're leaving the house, girls are upstairs, Mr. Latender's still in the kitchen, correct?
Yes.
You hadn't gone back into the kitchen to check on him to make sure he hadn't gotten up, am I right?
Correct.
How many times did you go in and out of the house before the police got there?
I don't know.
To get some pants on, correct?
Yes.
You left the house to bring Brooke some, was it boots you said?
Shoes.
Shoes. You go back into the house now. Now you're back in the house. And you decided not to scoop up the girls and leave the house, am I right?
Yes.
And there were multiple vehicles in the driveway, am I right?
Yes.
And you had the keys, or you had access to more than one vehicle in the driveway, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you did not scoop up the girls, leave the house.
Jesse comes as I were.
What you did grab when you went back inside the house was your cell phone, am I right?
Yes.
And you picked up your phone thinking you should probably call somebody at this point, am I right?
Yes.
And did you sort of go through some options in your mind in terms of who might be a good person to call at this moment?
No.
No, you pretty much had made your mind up.
Yes.
You thought it would be good to call your boss.
Yes.
And his name is Brian Campidelli, somewhat coincidentally.
Yes.
Okay. And you called Brian Campidelli, spoke with him for about 2.5 minutes?
Yes.
You told him what had happened?
Yes.
And did he give you some advice over the phone or not until after you'd hung up and he started texting you?
Through text message.
Okay. And one of the text messages he sent you in which you read was, make sure you take some pictures for evidence of your own, correct?
Yes.
And you read that advice, am I right?
Yes.
You thought about that advice?
Yes.
You decided that was good advice?
Yes.
Then you decided to follow the advice?
Yes.
So you were into evidence collection mode at this point, fair to say?
Objection.
I mean, you can have that.
Yes.
The first photo you took with your cell phone was of Jonathan Latender lying on the floor, am I right?
Yes.
Showing you exhibit number 68, you agree with me that this is the picture that you took with your cell phone?
Yes.
And in this photograph, you'd agree that Mr. Latender is now lying face down on the ground, correct?
Yes.
He's holding his left hand to the back of his head, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever see the gashes or wounds on the back of his head?
I did.
You did.
All right, guys, we're about halfway through. Sorry, I had to turn my camera off for a few. I was starving and I needed to take my vitamins because I'm so tired. I also accidentally bashed my head into the corner of this computer when I was vacuuming the other day and bending down to grab something on the floor. And I swear on my life, it hurts really bad. All right. I want to share some thoughts while we're halfway through cross-examination. We just heard that he called his boss. The moment that, like, it makes sense now why the state did what they did. But still, I mean, somebody came into his house, so, you know. But in a self-defense case, which we know that, you know, people can't just be coming in your house. You have the right to protect your home and protect yourself. But he did a lot of weird stuff. The moment that he injured the guy, he should have been on the phone with 911. But instead, he did a bunch of other things. And I guess his girlfriend ended up calling 911. We're going to find out more. We're halfway through. I think that he's doing very well on the stand, though. And I think that, gosh, I rewatch these when I'm editing them, and the amount of times I say, please forgive me. I am a fucking millennial, and I don't know any other words other than and like. Okay.
Showing you a picture that was taken during his autopsy. And is that the location and the appearance, give or take, of the wounds you saw on Mr. Latender's head that night?
Yeah.
Objection, may we
He's
come?
about to answer, Your Honor.
There's an objection, so we need to see consent part.
You Sir, let me clarify a little bit. You testified that Brooke, your girlfriend, had struck Mr. Latender over the head with a glass bong, correct?
Yes.
And that cut his head?
Yes.
And he started bleeding?
Yes.
Okay. And during your interactions with Mr. Latender that evening, you saw him bleeding from his head?
Yes.
You saw the wounds on his head?
Yes.
And showing you this photograph, is this not only the location, but the appearance of the wounds that you saw on his head?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit this, please.
All right. That will be our next exhibit.
Without objection.
Number 85.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I publish it to the jury?
You may.
Displaying it. Now, when you took this picture of Mr. Latender on your cell phone, Exhibit 68, was he moving at this point?
No.
Was he speaking?
No.
After taking this picture, you then left the kitchen again, am I right?
Yes.
You did not move that shotgun barrel.
No.
You did not move the loaded revolver.
No.
You once again left Mr. Latender in the kitchen near those items.
Yes.
You then went upstairs to continue following Mr. Campodelli's advice, am I right?
Yes.
And that's when you took the 4 other photos that are shown in Exhibit 84, am I right?
Yes.
You took a picture of your bedroom floor, the linoleum tile in your bedroom, the entrance to the girls' room, and the hallway, the stairwell, correct?
Yes.
And do you remember the order in which you took those photos?
From the picture of Jonathan
Yes.
to up the stairs, and then the pictures of my bedroom, then the picture of the girl's door is my memory.
Okay. Would you mind, please, just putting numbers next to each photo in terms of your memory of the order in which you took them?
Objection.
No, you can do that. You may have that.
All set? From the moment you snapped the photo of Jonathan Latender on the floor, how long would you say it took you to go upstairs, take these 4 photos, and then come back down?
A minute.
Okay. So 1 minute for the taking of the 5 photos, fair to say?
Yes.
And I believe your testimony was that while you're upstairs taking photos in your bedroom and in the hallway and in the stairwell, Mr. Latender is still downstairs. You don't have eyes on him at this point, correct?
No.
And Brooke is outside. You don't have eyes on her either.
Yes.
Your testimony this morning, correct me if I'm wrong, is that after you took the
Neither one of them got the kids out of the house. That to me is so strange because that'd be the first thing that I would do is get the individual down, get my children, and then call 911. The kids are still in the house.
five photos in that minute or so, you then went outside where Brooke was.
Yes.
And she was still on the phone with 911.
Yes.
And it was at that time that 911 dispatcher was asking some questions through Brooke, and you were answering some questions, a little bit of conversation there, correct?
Yes.
And that's when the dispatcher was asking some questions about where in the body was Jonathan shot. Do you remember that question?
Yes.
And you remember answering, I don't fucking care, dude, I don't know?
Yes.
And the dispatcher was asking some other questions about Jonathan's condition, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever hear the dispatcher say, I want Brian to go back inside the house and check on Jonathan?
No.
Did Brooke ever ask you to go back inside the house and check on Jonathan?
Yes.
Brooke asked you to do that?
Yes.
And you're saying that's on the 911 call?
I believe so.
And because she asked you to go check on the person who had tried to murder you, you decided to go inside and check on him?
At the request of the state police.
I thought you just said a moment ago the state police didn't ask you to do that.
She was communicating with the state police. She was in between me and the state police on the phone.
And so she told you, Brian, the state police want you to go inside the house and check on this guy?
She said they need to know.
They need to know what?
Referring to the 911 operator's questions of his status, what he's doing, and where he may have been shot.
And at this point, you're outside the house.
On the deck.
With your girlfriend.
Yes.
With your firearm.
Yes.
And you could have once again said, I don't fucking care, dude. You could have said that.
Yes.
But you felt that you were compelled to go inside and do a check on him?
Yes.
Now, I'd like to ask you some questions about your decision to shoot Mr. Latender in the head. First off, you saw some photos and some testimony about a pair of handcuffs inside Mr. Latender's pants, correct?
Yes.
You never saw those handcuffs that night, did you?
No.
He never used them or took them out during your struggle, am I right?
Yes.
So when you decided to shoot him in the head, the handcuffs didn't play a part in that decision-making process, correct?
It was not a decision-making process.
Well, that wasn't my question. When you shot Mr. Latender in the head...
Objection, yes, it was the question.
Well, hold on.
At the moment you shot him in the head, you had no idea about any handcuffs, correct?
No.
So that didn't factor into your shooting of him in the head?
It did not.
Similarly, with the decorative, or call it what you will, knife that was found the next day inside his jacket, you never saw that knife that night, correct?
Correct.
He never took it out, waved it at you, tried to stab you with it?
Correct.
So at the moment you shot him in the head, that knife really was not a factor in your mind?
Correct.
Now, it's your testimony today that Mr. Latender sort of was pushing himself up off the floor with his hands?
Yes.
And would you say it was from roughly his waist up that he was able to lift his upper body off the floor?
His legs as well.
His legs as well? So
Yes.
was he doing? So was it like a push-up that he was doing?
Yes.
So he was able to maintain, like, his legs were straight, his body was straight, and he was basically pushing himself up like a push-up.
Not a perfect push-up position. I believe from his knees down were still on the ground.
Okay. He never made it back up to his feet, did he?
No.
Did you consider running toward him and kicking him in the head?
No.
Did you consider reaching him down, picking up that shotgun barrel that he'd hit you with, and just smashing him across the back?
No.
Did you consider driving your knee into his back and holding him down?
No.
Did you consider stepping on his neck and applying pressure?
No.
After selling over 3 million of their previous everyday earbuds, Raycon has upped the ante and redesigned the whole thing. And these are fantastic. I mean, we're talking...
Instead, you decided to put him down, right?
No.
Well, when you had your Sig Sauer out, you had a number of places on his body where you could have shot him at that point, correct?
I did not have time to choose where I was going to shoot him. I just shot at him.
And are you saying you just happened to hit him in the head?
Yes.
Weren't you standing over him when you shot him?
No.
How close would you say you were?
10 to 15 feet.
Okay. So let's say this barrel here is Mr. Latender, okay? Are you saying, actually just stop me when I get to the distance. First of all, was this your right hand now?
No.
You shot him the second time with your left hand?
Yes.
Non-dominant hand?
Yes.
Stop me when I'm at the distance you were.
About there.
So for the record, I'm just past the jury rail. You're saying that from this distance with your non-dominant hand, you point to the Sig Sauer at Jonathan Latender and you hit him in the upper top back part of his head.
Yes.
Which would mean his head was facing away from you, wasn't it?
No.
Help me understand this. How was his head?
His head was, once again, in a push-up position. Push up, head looking down at the ground, roughly where your hands are.
Yeah, so if you fired from that distance and that angle, you would have shot him in the left temple, wouldn't you?
No.
You'd agree with me that in the picture that you took of Jonathan Latender, let me pull it up again on the screen. Exhibit 68, I believe. You're saying that from this position, he started to do a push-up.
Yes.
And you were standing pretty much almost maybe where you took the photo from, correct?
Incorrect.
Oh, where were you?
I was in the other side of the dining room.
Oh, so you shot him from the dining room. Is this the first time you've ever said that?
No.
When did you say it before?
With meeting with my lawyer.
So you're saying that when you were speaking with the police for an hour and 8 minutes that morning, this is when you say you were having a hard time defining the 2 times I shot him?
Yes.
And at the time you were speaking with them at the barracks, your mind was just so jumbled that you couldn't remember standing 15 feet away from him and shooting him in the top of his head with your non-dominant hand? You had no memory of that?
Yes.
So you're saying that his eyes were looking down at the ground when you shot him?
Correct.
You told the police that you weren't sure if you'd shot Mr. Latender once or twice, correct?
Correct.
And that wasn't true, was it?
It is what I believed at the time.
You told police that if you did shoot him twice, it was in rapid succession. You remember that?
Yes.
And that wasn't true either, was it?
That is what I believed at the time.
So at the time you were speaking with police, you could not remember there being over an 8-minute gap between the time you shot him in the torso to the time you shot him in the head.
That's correct.
But you remembered everything else in between, didn't you? You remember going upstairs to get clothes on, correct?
Correct.
You remember getting some shoes for Brooke and bringing them outside, correct?
Correct.
You told them that detail, am I right?
Yes.
You told the police that you called Brian Campanelli, correct?
I know he hasn't said it yet. At least I don't think he has. I'm surprised he hasn't, that the state has not said, or the prosecutor has not said, but you weren't fearful of your children's safety. You were doing all this other stuff, but you weren't like your kids were still in their room. That is, he's trying to prove excessive force here. And yeah.
Yeah.
So all these other details in that 8-minute and 37-second span, you remembered.
Yes.
And when they asked you about the second shot, suddenly jumbly, blurry memory?
Not suddenly, but yes.
The police specifically asked you if, when you went back into the house, you shot the gun a second time, correct?
Yes.
And you said you hadn't done that.
Correct.
And that wasn't true.
That is what I believed at the time.
So you believe that you hadn't shot twice?
I was unclear whether I had shot him once or twice, and I believed that if I did shoot him twice, that it was one event in rapid succession. That is what I believed at the time.
All right, so when you told the police that after the first shot you would put the gun on the railing outside on the deck, that never happened, did it?
If it did, it was brief when I went outside for a few seconds and saw Brooke, and then I grabbed it when I went back inside.
Right, but when you told the police you left it there, that wasn't true.
That is what I believed at the time.
So did you invent that memory?
No.
You told the police that you did not go back into the kitchen to check on Mr. Latender, correct?
I did not go back into the kitchen.
My question is, you told the police, they asked you, did you go back inside the kitchen to check on Jonathan? You remember them asking you that?
Yes.
And you said you didn't?
Yes.
And you're saying technically you didn't because you stayed 15 feet away from him as you shot him?
In a separate room that was not the kitchen.
So you were parsing your answers? You had the mental clarity to parse your answers like that?
No.
You told the police that if you ever did something like he had done, you'd hope someone would put you down too, correct?
Yes.
So is that what you believe? You put him down?
No.
You didn't tell the police that after shooting Mr. Latender one time, you took photos of him, correct?
Correct.
Were you hiding that detail from the police?
No.
You told them that you'd used your phone to call Mr. Campanelli, correct?
Yes.
You didn't think it was relevant that you had taken a picture of dying Jonathan Latender with your phone?
No.
Why'd you hide that from them?
I did not hide that from them.
Did you think that you'd done something wrong by taking that picture and that's why you didn't want to tell the police?
No.
You never told the police that you shot Jonathan Latender in the head, did you?
I did not.
You never told the police that the two shots were minutes and minutes and minutes apart, did you?
I did not.
Toward the end of the interview, the police asked you if there was anything else you wanted to tell them, correct?
Correct.
Or anything else they hadn't asked you about, correct?
Correct.
This was another opportunity, another chance for you to step up and admit the second shot, correct?
Objection. Sustained.
Did you take that opportunity to tell them about the second shot?
No.
Sitting here today, do you agree that instead of shooting him in the head, you could have run over and kicked him in the head?
Objection. Sustained.
No.
You don't have to answer that question.
Oh.
It was sustained, so strike that answer.
Sorry.
Sitting here today, do you regret putting him down?
Objection. Sustained.
Nothing further.
All right, so that was the cross. Ooh. Oh man. I'm glad I wasn't the jury on this case. I'll say that.
Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share with some friends.